I'm Angela.
And I'm Paige.
Join us as we dive into our obsession with true crime, history, and mysterious stories. We'll explore the intricate details of the corrupt, the cruel, and the calculating.
We assume no responsibility or liability for any errors or omissions in the content of this episode. The Corrupt podcast is based on the facts and our opinions of the case. Listener discretion is advised.
Welcome to the Corrupt podcast.
This is the second part covering Rodney Alcala. If you haven't already, please go listen to episode 1. We left part 1 with Rodney finally being arrested for his crimes.
The preliminary hearings in Robin Sampson's murder case started in September 1979. The judge ruled that Rodney's prior offenses would be allowed in as evidence.
The prior offenses were the 1968 rape and sexual assault of 8-year-old Tally Shapiro, the 1974 alleged abduction and molestation of 13-year-old Julie Johnson, the suspicion that Rodney was involved in the 1977 death of Ellen Hoover, and the 1979 abduction and sexual assault of Monique Hoyt. This is a huge deal for the prosecution. Imagine if they had not been allowed to use this as evidence. You would really only have the positive ID, Tony Esparza and Joanne Merchlin, and the testimony of Dana Croppa as evidence that Rodney was in the area, and the jury wouldn't even know what kind of predator they're dealing with.
Rodney was also set to stand trial in the Monique case. Unfortunately, Monique didn't show up to the hearing.
I would assume that she was too scared or under too much stress. The time of the incident, remember, she was only 15 years old.
Monique was the one that outsmarted him, right?
Right. She's the one that says, "Oh, please don't tell anybody about this rape. Let's just go back to the car. How are you?" And then when he stops to use the restroom, she runs for help.
I also thought it was interesting with that one, how she stayed the night at his mom's house.
Mm-hmm.
Like, what happened in that time?
I think she may have been a runaway and didn't have anywhere to go. I wondered the same thing. Like, where were her parents that she's staying at a strange man's house at 15 years old? So yeah. I assume that she was a runaway. I don't know that for a fact, but later it's kind of the kiss of death for him because she can ID exactly where he lived. Not only does she know his name, she knows where he lives.
Mm-hmm. The murder trial opening statements were heard on March 6, 1980. Robin's mother, Mary Ann, brought a .25 caliber pistol with her to the trial. She planned to use the gun to kill Rodney in the courtroom on March 6th. She carried the pistol with her every day of the 11-week trial. In a later interview, Mary Ann said that she reached for the pistol but felt like Robin was there. She smelled Robin's shampoo and felt Robin's hand on her wrist. Mary Ann admits to carrying the gun with her to the trial and not using it because she knew Robin would want her brother and sister to have their mother.
Rodney sat at the trial and was blowing kisses to Mary Ann. How Mary Ann stopped herself is truly impressive when it's the murderer of your child blowing kisses at you.
Yeah, I mean, at least flip him the bird or something.
Don't make eye contact with me. Sheesh. He's awful. On March 19th, Dana Croppa took the stand. After Robin's remains were found, Dana had come forward with what she had saw and found. Dana was just 20 years old at the time, and the situation caused her to have a mental breakdown. Dana states between 5 and 5:30 p.m. on June 20th, she saw a man pushing or shoving a young girl in the woods. She continued to work, her gut telling her that something was wrong, but she wrote it off that sometimes families had a hard time getting their kids to go for a walk. She remembered the car she saw in detail, as it was similar to a vehicle that she owned. Dana continued to say that on June 21st, between 8 and 8:30 p.m., she saw the same vehicle parked a mile away from the day before. She saw the same dark-haired man. The man was wearing a white t-shirt that appeared to be covered in dirt or a large stain. On June 25th, Dana returned to the area and found Robin's body. Robin had been decapitated, with her head laying next to her body. Her hands and feet were cut off and appeared to be missing. When asked if she saw the man who was pushing the girl on June 20th, Dana said that she does, and she pointed to Rodney. The next day at the trial, prosecution teams presented the prior offenses to the jurors. Tony Esparza and Joanne Merchland also testified that Rodney was the photographer that took their photos, and then offered them a ride and some weed for their phone numbers on June 19th. Lori Wirtz and Patty Elmendorf took the stand to confirm Rodney had also taken their photos on June 20th, 1979, at Sunset Beach. Prosecutors showed the jury 5 slides of Lori Wirt in her bikini. The slides had been found in Rodney's storage unit. Robin's mother was also called to testify. Mary Ann discussed a pair of gold stud earrings that had been found in Rodney's storage unit. Mary Ann's earrings were unique. The earrings had broken, and to save them, Mary Ann had used clippers to shorten the earrings into posts. Robin had borrowed the earrings on multiple occasions, and it was presumed that she was wearing them on June 20th. Mary Ann confirmed that the earring found in the unit was hers.
It seems like Robin's murder was the most brutal, doesn't it? Like with the decapitated head and the hands and the feet.
It's definitely different than his usual MO. Taking her out into the woods, and what I think happens is that he sees the girls at the beach, he sees the neighbor walk up to them, they all walk to the house, and I think Rodney's following them. And then when Robin takes off on the bicycle, he kidnaps her at that point.
It just makes me think how he uses strangulation to the point where, like, you know, their voice box is broken or their thyroid is bursted or their
eyes.
It makes me think that maybe he attempted it to Robin and like it just got, I don't even know if you can decapitate a person like that.
I'm not sure. And you're talking about a very young child. So maybe he completely overpowered her.
I hate him so much.
Or maybe he's trying to just cover his tracks a little bit better. Inmates at the Orange County Jail also testified. One inmate overheard Rodney saying, quote,
"Nobody seen me take her, and they could never convict me without the film and the bike, and they would never find the bike."
Without the film? Maybe he had more than one storage unit, and I don't think the bike has ever been found.
Maybe he was just throwing them off their course.
Maybe.
Like, oh, we got to find the film now. It's out there somewhere.
And the bicycle. Like, where did the bike go? Another inmate reported that Rodney told him that he picked a girl up and offered to take her to dance class. She got upset when she realized he wasn't taking her to dance class. Rodney allegedly told the inmate that it was a weird situation and a trip. This inmate was told that the bike was left behind at a thrift store.
The defense team called 2 of Rodney's sisters and his girlfriend to the stand. All 3 reported that Rodney had either been with them or made a phone call during the times Dana reported she saw Rodney. Rodney did not take the stand. In closing arguments, Rodney's attorney called Rodney a bad man. He went on to say,
"The people have proved that Mr. Alcala is a bad man. The people have proved that this is a bad crime. But the people have not proved that Mr. Alcala killed Robin Samso."
Bad men kill people.
Yeah, exactly. And I don't think his attorney is happy to be representing him. He says later that Rodney is a sick and disturbed man.
On April 29, 1980, the jury returned a verdict. Rodney was found guilty of first-degree murder and forcible kidnapping. Rodney was sentenced to death. He was sent to San Quentin Prison while he awaited the appeal process and gas chamber. On July 11, 1980, murder, burglary, and sexual assault charges were filed for the death of Jill Parenteau. 2 types of blood had been found at the scene. Compared to Rodney's blood, they had a match that would eliminate 90% of other humans. The prosecutor's theory was that Rodney had met Jill at a bar, but she didn't have an interest in Rodney. Jill told friends that after she told Rodney that she wasn't interested, she received obscene phone calls.
Unfortunately, the case was dismissed in 1981 because investigators felt they didn't have enough evidence. They did continue working on the case. Rodney went to trial for the abduction and sexual assault of Monique Hoyt in September 1980. Rodney was found guilty of rape and sentenced to another 9 years. His sentence was now the death sentence plus 9 years. In February 1981, Rodney's attorney filed an appeal, stating that too much weight had been given to the jail informants. One of the informants, Robert Dove, lied, hoping to get special treatment while in jail. The appeal also cited there was no support for the statements. It was one inmate collaborating with another inmate, and it was easily biased. The Supreme Court ruled that there was a possibility that the inmate had lied. The court allowed the appeal to continue. If the inmates had lied, what effect did it have on Rodney's sentencing? Robert Dove was summoned to the court in April 1981, and he confessed that he had lied. Rodney had not talked to the inmates about Robin's kidnapping or murder. The following month, the judge ruled that even with Robert Dove's confession, there was enough evidence to find Rodney guilty of kidnapping. This ruling would keep Rodney on death row.
Rodney spent 3 years in prison before the Supreme Court ruled, quote,
"The trial court committed a reversible error in admitting into evidence the defendant's prior crimes, which were not so similar to the present case to establish a peculiar pattern to prove the defendant's identity as the perpetrator." To summarize, this meant that Rodney's death row sentence was overturned in 1984. It was almost like the 1980 murder trial had never happened, but he was still held on that 9-year rape sentence, thank goodness.
The murder trial started all over again on April 23, 1986. The second trial was similar to the first trial. Dana Croppa met with the judge and advised she could not remember any of her time as a firefighter or what she had said at the prior trial. Dana was excused as a witness due to her mental health, but the judge allowed her prior statement to be read for the jurors. There was no physical evidence linking Rodney to the murder. The jury deliberated for 4 days before returning a guilty verdict for murder and kidnapping. At the sentencing, Tally Shapiro and Monique Coit's father took the stand. The jurors heard both accounts of Rodney's behavior before deliberating the sentencing. Again, the juror sentenced Rodney to death. Boo. You whore.
Oh my gosh.
Rodney was sent back to San Quentin Prison death row. His cell was 5 foot by 11 foot, and he was kept in solitary confinement.
San Quentin is the largest California prison and the only prison in the state for men's death row. They have over 3,000 prisoners today. Rodney was allowed to leave his cell 6 days a week for 4 hours a day. He could play games or run on the track. 3 days a week, he was allowed to take a shower.
Rodney wrote a book in 1994 titled You the Jury. The front cover of the book says, quote, "A man on California's death row claims he's innocent, the victim of a legal system going awry. Here's the evidence. You're the jury. You decide."
He also has Robin Samso's face on the cover, which is so disgusting and infuriating.
That's so stupid. So dumb.
I think it's part of the reason today that families sue so that prisoners can't make any money off of their loved one's death. And in this case, Rodney takes full advantage and puts Robin's face on the cover of his book. The book doesn't appear to be for sale anymore, but you can find portions of it online to read. Rodney refers to Robin's murderer as the curly-haired photographer, and then himself in third person, listing his whereabouts in chronological order throughout. It's not written with a narrative. It's more like bullet points with items for the jury to reconsider. The book is 368 pages of notes, illustrations, and discussion on the trial.
On March 30th, 2001, Rodney's second trial conviction was overturned. The conviction was overturned because the 1986 trial included a reading of Dana's testimony instead of her taking the stand. A psychologist for the defense was also not allowed to testify on Dana's amnesia, which could have helped Rodney's case. Rodney's defense team also did not call on a witness that saw him at Knott's Berry Farm for a job interview at the same time that Robin disappeared. The U.S. District Court gave the state of California 120 days to either retry or release Rodney.
When Robin's mother found out about the overturned conviction and the third trial, she said, quote,
"How many times are they going to put us through this hell? This is just so unfair."
It had been 22 years since Robin's murder, and her family now has to go through a third trial. In 2002, a new California law allowed law enforcement to take DNA from prisoners using reasonable force. Guys, this is Proposition 69 that Ron and Bruce Harrington fought for. Taking it back to our first episode on the Golden State Killer, Keith and Patrice Harrington were murdered by the Golden State Killer on August 19th, 1980. Keith's brothers, Ron and Bruce helped to get Proposition 69 passed by obtaining 2 million signatures to qualify for the ballot. The Golden State Killer case unfortunately wasn't solved by Proposition 69, but 53,000 other cases were solved. Rodney is one of those 53,000. Not only was he linked to other murders in 2002, they are still comparing his DNA today to solve other cold cases.
Good job, Ron and Bruce. Woo!
Yes, just the overlap there that we were taking it back, this made me so excited. I was like, yes, we got this guy.
It's definitely giving me good vibes.
The prosecution team was notified that Rodney's DNA matched Georgia Wickstead in 2002. Semen found was linked to Rodney. Now they had DNA evidence to link him. Murder, burglary, and rape charges were filed against Rodney on June 5, 2003 for Georgia. Rodney pleaded not guilty to the murder of Robin Samso on October 7, 2003. On October 17th, Rodney filed a motion to act as his own lawyer in his third murder trial. While waiting for the spring 2005 trial for Robin's murder, Rodney was linked to the murder of Joe Barcombe, Charlotte Lamb, and Joe Parenteau. Again, semen found from the crime scenes matched Rodney's DNA sample. There were now 5 murders connected to Rodney.
Gotcha, bitch.
Absolutely. There was so much DNA evidence linking Rodney to the murder of Charlotte Lamb. A pair of earrings found at the Seattle storage locker had Charlotte's DNA on them. Semen from Charlotte's body was a match to Rodney, and they confirmed Rodney's handprint matched the one left on Charlotte's bed. It became apparent to investigators that Rodney was keeping trophies of the victims with his bag of earrings and the photographs. First Robin's earrings, and now Charlotte's have been found.
Jill Barcombe's brother Bruce was mailed a postcard from the LAPD in 2005. When he contacted the LAPD, they let him know that DNA had connected Jill's murder to Rodney. Bruce mailed letters to Rodney 4 times asking him to come forward and admit to his crimes. Rodney never wrote back to Bruce, and he never admits to any other victims. In 2006, the 5 cases were combined into one trial. Rodney would face the charges of murder, rape, and kidnapping for Robin Samso, Jill Barcombe, Charlotte Lamb, Georgia Wickstead, and Joe Parenteau together in one trial.
This goes back and forth. In 2007, the defense wins an appeal saying that Georgia Wickstead and Jill Barcombe were different than the other 3 murders and should be tried separately. But then in 2008, this decision was reversed again, and it was decided that all 5 could be merged into one trial.
Rodney continued delaying the trial by petitioning to represent himself. He filed a request to represent himself as his own attorney 3 times, and all 3 times it was denied. Finally, on September 14, 2009, the court ruled that Rodney could serve as his own defense attorney.
He would have no defense team, so this would be a one-man show.
Yeah, I feel like he was happy about that.
This is his genius IQ showing through. He truly believes he is the smartest person in the room at all times.
The murder trial began on January 11, 2010. The prosecution presented details of the 5 murders. The murders of Jill Barcombe and Georgia Wickstead were similar with bruises and cuts to their scalps, strangulation that caused small blood vessels in their eyes to rupture, and DNA left behind at the scene.
The trial was systematic, moving from one victim to the next. For the first 4 victims, Rodney always asked the witnesses if the victim was wearing earrings before the murder. Like this was going to prove he's innocent because they can't remember if earrings were worn 30 years earlier. Because Rodney was his own attorney, he was able to question the victim's family, friends, and witnesses. He questioned Robin's mother on her disappearance and death. It's heartbreaking. She screamed and yelled at him with her responses until the judge had to call for a break.
Oh my God, I would be livid. I would not do it. Yeah, I would be screaming too.
Oh, absolutely. It's horrible. Her daughter's murderer is grilling her about details on her daughter. It should not have been allowed. I understand that this was within his rights, but boy, is this twisted.
That should almost be illegal in a way, I feel.
Well, he wanted to be his own defense. That's technically your right. Morally, I don't think it should have been allowed, but the state was kind of tied, I think. They had no choice.
I would have, blown kisses at him. just trying to stab him in the back, just try to catch him off guard.
Answer in one-word answers and just blow kisses at him.
Give him some winks. And then say F you and the horse you rode in on.
Pretty much. You've got to feel bad for her.
Rodney was evaluated by a court-appointed psychologist. They found that he had borderline personality disorder.
Borderline personality disorder is a mental illness that affects a person's ability to regulate their emotions. This causes them to make impulsive actions and have unstable relationships. They tried to use this as an explanation on why Rodney couldn't remember attacking and murdering these women. Again, coming back to his IQ, he's way ahead of the psychologist on this test. He's playing them and giving them the answers that he wants to give them.
Yeah, he has to.
It was finally Rodney's turn to call witnesses starting on February 2nd. He called his 1979 girlfriend Elizabeth to the stand. They had dated for 3 months prior to his arrest. Elizabeth states that she remembers seeing gold earrings at Rodney's house. Rodney plays the dating game episode, telling jurors that if they watch closely, they will see a flash of gold, proving that he wore earrings himself. So he's either lying about the earrings being his own, or he's wearing trophies of his victims around.
That's disgusting. Did he have earrings in the video? Did you see them?
I could not see them.
I couldn't see him with his big, luscious hair.
Exactly. And he's saying you'll see a flash of gold, proving that he's wearing these earrings. Like I said, I couldn't find any flash of gold. And if he's wearing earrings, again, congratulations, that doesn't prove one way or the other here. You can have your ears pierced and have your own earrings that are not trophies, or you could have been wearing one of your victim's earrings. That doesn't prove anything. It's a very irrelevant point to me.
I wonder if he expected Elizabeth to say that.
She has his back. All these years later, you're talking in the 2010s, she still gets up there believing he's innocent and she has his back. She's like, no, he had earrings. Those aren't anybody else's other than his.
Okay.
On February 10th, Rodney took the stand to defend himself. He spent 2 hours on the stand and does admit that on June 20th, he wasn't at a job interview, but had been at the beach taking photos. The prosecution pushes hard on Rodney to get him to confess to Robin's murder, but he insists that he never met Robin.
After 2 days of deliberations, the jury found Rodney guilty of 5 counts of first-degree murder and 1 count of kidnapping. The jury also found Rodney guilty of 5 special circumstance allegations for torture, rape, kidnapping, and multiple murder. The sentencing hearing was lengthy, with multiple victim statements and final arguments. Rodney fought against the death penalty. He played a clip of the 1967 Arlo Guthrie's Alice's Restaurant song for the jury. The point of the song was to convince the jury not to kill him, but the lyrics are, "Shrink, I want to kill. I mean, I wanna kill, kill." And it goes on saying the word kill 11 times in the clip. Now, how is a song like that going to convince a jury?
It was really dark and really creepy. We're going to list a link to the song so you guys can hear. It's a very long song. It's a very old song. Most people are familiar with this. Are you familiar with Alice's Restaurant?
Nope. But I know you are.
Of course you're not.
You know music more than I do.
Oh, gosh. Yeah, so it's a song that lots of people are familiar with, but the jury was kind of like, what are you trying to get at with this? Like, why are we talking about, like, I want to kill, kill? Like, why are we saying the word kill 11 times at a murder hearing? And then you're asking for me not to give you the death sentence. It was very confusing for them, but I do want to include the clip in our episode notes and then as well on our socials. We'll list it so you guys can hear the song.
The jury recommended the death sentence on March 9th, 2010. The judge agreed with the jury verdict and sentenced Rodney to death without the possibility of parole.
Hundreds of photos of unidentified people were released by the Huntington Beach Police Department in 2010. Women, children, young girls, and boys were included in these photographs. These photos were part of the 1,700 found at the storage unit. Detectives have kept most of the photos as they're sexually explicit, involving unconscious women or children. We spent several hours looking through the photos online. They are so uncomfortable.
So uncomfortable.
Oh my gosh. So many of the women are topless or naked. It's edited, so you're going to see just like their collarbones and up, but you can clearly get the understanding that they're topless. They're also inside of buildings, and we know how hard it would have been for them to get away at that point. This is why law enforcement think that Rodney probably murdered more than 100 people. A coworker of Rodney's at the LA Times said he used to have photos of naked little girls in his photography portfolio. He would show them off at the office. And at the time, she just kind of shook her head and was like, yeah, he's a strange guy. Then later, she realized that he's actually displaying child pornography.
Yeah, because only strange would come to mind after seeing those disturbing images.
It just tells you the change in mentality that we've had as well. That in the 70s, they were like, oh, he's just kind of a weirdo. And now we're like, what are you doing? Why do you have pictures of naked children in his portfolio for work?
Red frickin' flag.
Definitely. In 2013, one of the photos was connected to a cold case in Wyoming. Kathy Thornton had been searching for her sister Christine since 1977. Kathy's son saw an episode of 48 Hours on Rodney Alcala. In the episode, they show some of the storage unit photos. Based on her son's recommendation, Kathy took the time and looked up those photos. One of the photos was a woman in a yellow shirt wearing flip-flops on a motorcycle. Kathy knew it had to be Christine, based on Christine's pinky toe. It had always been curved up and had a unique look to it. And you can clearly see Christine's toes in the picture because she's wearing flip-flops. Kathy contacted the FBI and submitted her DNA to the National Database of Missing Persons. The DNA was a hit to Granger, Wyoming, 1982 Jane Doe, known as Granger Greta. Christine's body had been left in the desert for 5 or 6 years before it was found. Her body had been found within a few yards from where this photo was taken. She looked so happy and carefree, but not long after the photo was taken, Rodney would kill her and her unborn child. Christine had been approximately 6 months pregnant and had left an abusive boyfriend that summer of 1977.
That's so sad that she wasn't found until like 5 or 6 years later.
It's very sad, and that it goes so long without being solved. As I was flipping through these pictures, being familiar with the case, I hit that photo and I was like, oh my gosh, this is Christine Thornton. And I want our listeners to stop and go and listen, share these photos. It took hours for me to find the album. Why is that a thing? In today's day of social media, why is this not at the forefront? Why are these photos not being shared more? So we're going to take that approach. I want everybody to share these photos. This is a call to action here. Share these photos, get these people out, figure out who they are. And some of them, like Christine, have been identified and their photo just remains up in the album. There's a few of those, but police have 1,700 photos that they're searching through, trying to connect the dots to who these people were.
And they think he's killed 100 victims or more. So it's just share, because they could still be out there. They need to be found and they need to be put to rest properly.
Even if these people are safe and they managed to escape and didn't realize what evil they had come across, it still will help police close that one down and say, okay, now we've got 1,699 to look through. And there's a lot of them that are children as well.
I saw that.
Small children, like 2 and 3.
I bet it was to be around the young mothers.
Ooh, that's a good thought.
Maybe he just wanted to take pictures of the babies or the younger children to get around the younger mothers.
It's a good opportunity. You go up and say, oh, your baby's beautiful. I want to enter them in a photo contest. Everybody likes to hear that their baby's beautiful, right?
Your baby is a Gerber baby.
Exactly.
Rodney was extradited to New York to face the murder trial for Ellen Hover and Michael Crilly in 2013. He pled guilty to the murder charges and was sentenced to 25 years to life.
He actually pled guilty. At this point, he's 69 years old. Robin's mother actually thanks the families of Ellen and Michael for going through the trial. It provided her some relief, knowing that if California did let him off again, New York was going to sentence him as well.
Rodney was questioned by investigators about Christine's murder in 2016. At that time, he was no longer at San Quentin, but moved to the medical unit at Corcoran Prison due to the borderline dementia. Rodney was still kept under maximum security. He wouldn't admit to killing Christine, but he tapped the photo and said he knew the area, and it was his area. The creep also wouldn't talk about Christine, but kept tapping and tracing over the photo of her on the motorcycle. When asked if he killed Christine, Rodney told investigators they were stupid and crazy, and Christine was alive when he left her. Investigators planned to try Rodney for first-degree murder, but it never went to trial.
I'm assuming because there was no forensic evidence linking him, and he was already in prison for multiple murders.
Yeah. On July 24, 2021, Rodney Alcala died of natural causes when he was 77 years old.
He spent 42 years behind bars.
After Rodney's death, another victim came forward. Morgan Rowan had been attacked in 1968 when she was 16 years old. 4 days before her family was moving to New York, she had been attacked and raped by Rodney while at a party. Her friends broke down the door and saved her. Morgan said she moved and never told anyone what happened. Then a couple months later, she heard about the rape of Tally Shapiro and felt guilt because she hadn't reported the attack. In 2021, Morgan emailed Tally an apology, and Tally said there was only one person that should apologize, and Morgan wasn't at fault.
These girls were very young, 16 and 8 years old. Without friends and observant people stepping in, I really feel like both of them would have been murdered as well.
Yeah.
Even with Rodney's death, this case may never be closed. Unfortunately, there are more murders and disappearances linked with Rodney. 19-year-old Pamela Jean Lamson went missing from San Francisco in 1977. She went missing after meeting a photographer at a wharf. Her naked body was found on a trail in the area. There is no DNA evidence to link Pamela's murder to Rodney, but her cause of death is similar to Rodney's other victims. Seattle investigators are also working on linking Rodney to a couple other cold cases. Sherry Greenman was 19 years old and living in Seattle when she disappeared in September 1976. Her body has never been found. Photos at the storage unit appear to be a link to Rodney. 13-year-old Antoinette Whitaker, known as Tony, was living in foster care when she disappeared on July 9, 1977. A week later, Tony's body was found in a vacant city lot. Her body had been posed on her hands and knees, but Tony had not been sexually assaulted. And the posing here isn't necessarily what Rodney did either, so this would be kind of another one-off situation if it is connected to him. On February 17, 1978, Joyce Gaunt's body was found at a park. She had been strangled, beaten, and raped. Joyce was a developmentally disabled teenager.
This one really got me. I hated hearing about it. He's a cold-blooded, heartless prick.
Definitely. Matt Murphy was involved in the 2003 murder trial as the senior deputy defense attorney for Orange County. Matt said, quote,
"He got a sexual charge and he liked the cruelty. He liked inflicting pain on strangers. It was the thrill of breaking in and controlling strangers. He had a full-blown perversion. There was a huge sexual component to this man, and he was able to hide that in his normal interactions."
I know this is a long quote, but I think that really sums Rodney Alcala up perfectly.
It does. There was a little part of me that you were going to say Matt Murdock, which is Daredevil. He's a lawyer.
Which is so funny because you said Murdoch and I went the Murdoch murders.
Oh, gosh. So. Yeah. But yeah, I love Matt Murdock. Go watch Daredevil, guys. It's good.
In 2023, Netflix released a dramatized movie based on Rodney Alcala and Cheryl Bradshaw called Woman of the Hour. The first half of this movie was really tough for me. After spending weeks researching Rodney and then watching it in the movie with a slightly fictional spin was rough. The opening scene with Rodney and they call her Sarah. I think Sarah is loosely based on Christine Thornton. She's pregnant with an ex-boyfriend. Then Charlie, the stewardess, was actually Michael Crilly. They changed the number of the bachelors even, like Rodney was Bachelor 1 in real life, but he's Bachelor 3 on the show. It was also the small things, like they changed Cheryl's name. Anna Kendrick still plays Cheryl, but the fictional Cheryl starts with the letter S, and in real life, Cheryl Bradshaw's name starts with a C. They don't know much about the real life Cheryl. She died before the show started filming, so they couldn't interview her. Anna Kendrick, though, I will say she nailed it. She doesn't look like Cheryl, but her facial expressions, you could put that side by side with the dating game. She matched that perfectly. Like, she nailed it.
She did. She did. Yeah, if you've seen the movie, it jumps everywhere for me. That's one thing that I didn't really care for, was just that the time jumps.
Also, the fact that the location jumps around. Like, they play it off like it's all one location. It's really not. It's jumping around.
I thought Anna did a good job as well when I ended up watching the real footage of the dating game. She really matched her smile with Cheryl's, like to the T. I don't really want to give Rodney any credit, and I'm not saying I'm giving Rodney credit at all. I'm giving the actor who played Rodney a little bit of credit. His name's Daniel Zavato. He did a great job, I thought. He really didn't look like Rodney, but I thought his portrayal of him was very well done.
Agreed.
And it made me creep the F out.
That part where he's walking like parallel to her in the parking lot, and then spoilers here, she gets saved, but then she like sits in her car with her feet outside of her door, kind of like calming herself down. I'm literally like talking to the TV, like, get in the car, lock the door, close your door, lady, close your door.
Yes.
It was very suspenseful, very well done.
Yeah, and I don't know if it's true. It showed that they both went out on a date.
No, she never goes out with him.
She was smarter in real life. Good.
Yes. An interview with Anna Kendrick, she said that Cheryl is actually the most fictionalized portion of the whole movie. We do know based on Cheryl's interviews that she got a strange vibe from him right off the gate, and she never does go out. She doesn't do the special trip. She just is like, she talks to the producers and says, I don't want to do this. Is that okay? And they're like, absolutely. If you're uncomfortable, you don't have to do it. And that's kind of the end of it.
Or can you just give it to me?
We'll take the trip.
Can I just go?
But not with the serial killer.
We would love for you to become part of the Corrupt crew. You can find us on Patreon with multiple tiers and PayPal. This will score you our appreciation and will announce your name in a future episode. Both links are in the episode notes. Case suggestions and feedback can be emailed to us at corruptpod@gmail.com.
The sources for this episode would be listed in the episode notes. You can find us on Instagram, Facebook, and Threads. Don't forget to subscribe to catch our new Corrupt content. Please also leave us a review wherever you're listening to this episode. Bye.
Bye.